What's up everyone, and welcome to this episode of Gearist TV. Today, we're going to get just a little bit dirty with the EM Trail in one from Pearl Izumi. Now, I moved to Colorado in 2011, and since then I've been blessed to just have no shortage of trails to run on anywhere I want. It's uphills, it's downhills, it's single track, it's mixed terrain, it's really technical terrain, it's scrambling uphill, it's all those kinds of things. And as such, being that I get to run in a lot of different shoes, it gives me a lot of objectivity to be able to take a shoe and tell whether I really like it. And so I was really excited to get into the EM Trail N1 because I like the EM Road N1 so much. So let's get right into the shoe by starting with the outsole. Now, when I do run on a trail, I have a great place that I like to go. It's Rabbit Mountain. It's just north of Boulder, Colorado. And what's great about it is there's a long, flat stretch of road with a kind of couple little uphills and downhills. Now, that's nice and paved. Now, right beside that is the trail. Now, you go up into Rabbit Mountain, it kind of goes on some pretty rocky single track type stuff, and then some really well-groomed stuff. You can run on sandy stuff, you can run on pebbly stuff, and then through even some tall grass and up to things as big as boulders that are twice my height. So it's a really great control trail that allows me to get a lot of different terrains, including a paved road, and throw them at a shoe, even if it's a trail shoe. So one of the things about this trail is that the dust and the dirt on it is really, really fine, and which makes for kind of slick mud. If you've ever run in really, really fine mud, it's quite slippery. And so I was really excited because that's a type of trail that if a shoe has a weakness, it's really going to point it out. Now, when I ran with this shoe on that trail, it was about 50-50 dry to muddy. I actually ran in it just after the Colorado floods this past September of 2013, and right away I got super dirty, but that's kind of to be expected. Now, on dry trail, this does a really great job. It really does. It held very nicely. On muddy trail, it also did a nice job, but like any shoe, where the depth of the mud exceeds the depth of the lug, you're going to wind into a little bit of a slippery spot. Now, in this shoe, it's got a self-cleaning lug system, one of the things I really like about it. What's interesting about that is that I didn't know how it worked. I was kind of like, well, do I push a button and it just clears out? But as you know, if you're in mud, particularly cakey mud, it's going to get caked and it's going to kind of stick in there. Now, when you're running through that mud, this stuff is not going to go away, even in a self-cleaning lug system like this. However, as soon as I did hit a dry surface, this did clear out very quickly, actually really nicely. Within probably, I want to say 25 yards of ending, it was more than clear enough to really run comfortably in it again. And one of the advantages of that is that it doesn't hang on to a bunch of weight, which is really, really nice addition. Now, the outsole itself, as you can see here, we've got this blue line on this particular model, is reminiscent of the EM Road N1 in that it follows the basic pressure map of where the foot weight is distributed during the gait cycle, kind of starting back on the heel if you're a heel striker and kind of meandering along the lateral side of the foot and then out through the toe. This is more of a cosmetic thing to me, but the lugs are oriented very nicely and really quite grippy. It's nice. They kind of have micro nubs, which you may be able to see on them, kind of right in there. And those micro nubs, again, they do a great job of gripping on some of the finer stuff, some of the drier, muddier stuff. Now, one of the things that made me really excited about this was their dynamic offset, and we're going to get into talking about that a little bit more in the midsole section. Just like in the Pearl Izumi EM Road N1, the EM Trail N1s uses the dynamic offset technology. Basically, what that means is that the shoe is set up to have a different drop or different offset, the difference in height from here to here, depending on where you are in the gait cycle. Now, of course, that could be said to some degree about all shoes. However, being that the toe spring in this shoe has been brought back by about 20%, give or take, it actually gives it almost a rocker type of feel and really super, super smooth ride. Add to that the fact that right in here you can see this blue section. It's got a nice rock plate in the forefoot area of the shoe that really does protect the shoe. It still doesn't sacrifice ground feel, which is impressive because a lot of times a rock plate can be so substantial that you're going to lose all kinds of touch with the ground. Now, are you going to feel minute pebbles and things like that with this? Not so much. You know, the rock plate is going to guard you from those, but The flip side of that is that it's also going to protect you from the really, really craggy stuff that otherwise would really ding up your feet. So again, that dynamic offset is really a great system. It says the advertised drop on this is 1 millimeter. It doesn't really feel like 1 millimeter. It feels like a tiny bit more, maybe 3 millimeters. And I realize before anyone says anything that I am splitting hairs there. 1 to 3 millimeters is like, yay, much, that much. It's not big at all. However, you know, when you're running on a trail, you're probably up on the forefoot a little more, especially technical trail where you're having to have that much more dynamic sense of running. So this is a super, super smooth ride. The transition from the midfoot into the forefoot, or even from the rear foot into the midfoot and on up into the forefoot, is excellent and super, super smooth because of that dynamic offset. It has been pointed out to me that in the past, that could be in the EM Road in one, for instance, that the sock liner rather has actually different densities at different points along its path. But the problem I have with that theory is that I've taken this out and run with it without, and it's still a super smooth ride. So, nice job on the midsole and outsole in the way they work together. Now let's talk about the upper. One of the biggest challenges that trail shoes have are having enough room for the foot to be comfortable in there and not feel trapped, but also to allow the durability and flexibility that you want to have at the same time. A lot of times if you'll include a ton of fabric in the upper that doesn't necessarily need to be there for durability's sake, what's going to happen is it's going to bunch. And in those bunches where those creases happen, it's really going to kind of compromise the durability of that upper. And in this case, they really did a nice job. It's a single piece upper. You can see here, completely seamless on the upper. It's impressive. It's not as stretchy as the EM Road in one, because again, if you had a super stretchy upper on a trail shoe, you'd probably be sliding around quite a bit more than you'd want to be. In this, not really stretchy, but it gives ample room rather throughout the shoe. You can see up here in the forefoot, it's a nicely shaped toe box. It's given plenty of room through the midfoot here, and the only support elements that are on this are these heat bonded elements here. You can see them on the sides here. They've worked the logo in on the lateral side. These are completely heat bonded, very, very minimal. You've got one locking out of the heel counter and then one locking up into laces. But apart from that, not much. And what's great about that is there's no room for stitches to come undone, or no room for a certain seam to cut into the shoe and then again compromise that durability. So really, really well done on the support structure of the upper. Around the toe here you can see this flexible yet beefy enough toe cap, and additionally where this part of the outsole comes up and around the toe, it creates a nice little bumper right there for when you're clumsy like me and you kick stuff by accident. So additionally on the upper you've got pull tabs on the heel, not on the tongue. One of the coolest things, and this is on the tongue, is the lace retention system, let's just say. Now right here you see this general lace placeholder loop that's pretty standard on a lot of shoes. But what's really cool is that right up here at the top of the tongue, and I'm going to hold that up to the camera, maybe you can see it, the laces go through on both sides of the tongue there up at the top. Now, as we all know, there can be drift of the tongue to one side or the other, and this prevents that to some degree, but a lot of times you have to have a gusseted tongue, something that's going to be attached all the way up and down to really keep that tongue in place. In this guy, this is a smart solution to that without having the possibility of fabric bagging up through gussets throughout the throat of the tongue there. So it's really, really nice, really well thought out, and it's those little aspects of a shoe that do a really great job and stand out in my mind. So nice job. Also, the laces are sausage link laces, which means that they go, well, they're like sausage links, you can see there. And what's great about that is that they keep themselves tied a lot better, so kudos there. The sock liner is totally removable, but again, that may change the ride a little bit. For me, it wasn't such a huge deal, still a super, super smooth ride, but if you need more volume inside the shoe, that's definitely a way to go. Now, this outer mesh that you can see here is backed a little bit by a slightly more fine mesh that's not going to allow things through, and it actually has a pretty good barefoot feel. Now, I don't run in shoes barefoot generally. I always try them out barefoot, especially not a trail shoe because dirt and debris and gunk gets in there, but I always try them out at least once in barefoot, and this is really comfortable, super, super breathable, and all the support structure internally mimics the exterior support structure of these welded elements, and they're also welded, you may be able to see, welded on the interior as well. It's a nice job. It actually really creates a very sturdy shoe, something that I wasn't really expecting because, again, There are not a lot of support elements on this, so good job there. Last thing we're going to talk about on the upper is the heel counter. It's pretty rigid, actually. It's pretty rigid, especially if you're pushing from the back. I mean, you got to give it a lot of force to bend it. On the sides, it gives a little more, but all in all, it's a really kind of average heel counter. Now, whereas on the Pearl Izumi EM Trail, EM Road N1, the heel counter only comes up about halfway. On this guy, the heel counter comes fully to the top of the collar, which is actually nicely padded, maybe even a little bit too much padding, but that's neither here nor there. The heel counter is rigid enough to give you a really nice lockdown feeling in that heel if that's what you like. And again, combine that with the padding around the collar, it's going to really give you a secure feel around the backside of the foot. But again, this is the heel counter in this shoe comes all the way up to the top as opposed to the EM Road N1, which only comes about halfway. So it's a nice secure feel in the heel and through the midfoot and up into the forefoot, even though there's a really nicely shaped toe box. Let's talk about the fit real quick. The fit of this shoe, dead on. Size 11 for me, perfect. Works exactly where I would want it to be. Now, in terms of the interior fit, as I told you earlier, it's going to have a nice secure feel in the heel cup and back into the heel counter here. Through the midfoot, plenty of room, and there's also plenty of play in the laces. Again, because they're not gusseted laces, it's going to allow the shoe to expand quite a bit, and also plenty of room to cinch it down, which, as you can see, is not going to result in a bunch of bunching of the fabric. A little bit, yes, of course, if you have a super low volume foot, but not a ton. Up into the toe box, which is really nicely shaped, very, very comfortable. Let's talk about the ride of the shoe real quick. Now, I've been kind of talking about the ride off and on throughout this review because I feel like that's one of the primary features across the board of this shoe is that dynamic offset and that super quick transition from anywhere in the rear of the foot to into the forefoot. Now, again, dynamic offset in this is going to really make that transition quick. It's going to get you off the heel should you land on your heel. But again, when you're running on a trail or something like that, you're probably going to be much more up on your forefoot in general because it's a much more dynamic state of running. Now, one of the things that people may be a little concerned with this is that it does have a relatively kind of high stack height here. Now, I never noticed any kind of instability in this shoe on a trail. Even on, I tend to roll an ankle here and there, and didn't roll an ankle in this, which there was definitely a concern because it sits up so high. But because of its lug system extending all the way to the lateral and medial sides all the way around the entire shoe, it's pretty stable. And you can see here that it goes all the way and then some beyond the sides of the upper there. So really nicely done on the ride. That dynamic offset gives it a super smooth transition and a super smooth ride in general. And on the road, I will tell you, this does a great job. It's not quite as rockered as the EM, or not rockered, but doesn't have quite the same kind of rocker-esque look and feel as the EM Trail or EM Road N1, but it does have enough of it to give you a really smooth road ride. So if you're running to a trail or running from a trail at the beginning or end of a run, this is going to be a great shoe to get you there, and it's going to be perfectly fine on the road. It may wear down these kind of micro little nubs that are on the lugs there, but in general, it's going to keep you really safe. But you know, just again, it might wear those down a little bit quicker if you're on a road. So nice job with the ride on this guy. At 9.6 ounces and a men's size 9, this is a pretty light trail shoe. Actually, it's well done. Certainly lighter than heavier than its road counterpart, but definitely something that's going to be light for a trail shoe. It's also going to really hug the foot well, so that contributes to the disappearing effect of having it on your foot. At $115, it comes in nicely priced, actually really nicely priced for a pretty high-end trail shoe, and based on its cost per mile, this thing is really, really durable. I haven't had any issues with the upper. I can assume that if you're running through like inch-long thorns or things that are like actually poking out at your foot like that, you may find some wear, but I've run in some pretty rough stuff and don't see any marks of that, other than the fact that it's dirty in places. Any marks from that anywhere on the shoe, so well done there. One thing that I might think that some people would want to see in a shoe like this is a little bit more aggressive lug system. Now, that's not going to be something that would be for everybody, and that's certainly not going to be something that everyone would wear on an everyday training run. This does fine for me, and I've taken on really, really aggressive trail, from loose dirt to gravel to pebbles to some sandy stuff to fine dirt to mud to chunky mud to slick mud to grass to short grass, long grass, you name it. I've taken this on all those things, and it does good by me. However, if you're does well by me, excuse my grammar, if you're looking for something with a little more aggressive lug, I can see where somebody might want to see that. I think this does a fine job, but again, different strokes for different folks. With their entire E motion line, Pearl Izumi's done a great job of really nailing down a nice and smooth ride that a lot of people are going to like. There are some people that want a ton of cushioning, but there are some people that realize that cushioning isn't always the best thing, and a lot of times that smoothness that cushioning provides can often be provided by a smooth ride, and Pearl Izumi has really found a nice middle ground between those two things. We actually have a shoe coming in-house pretty soon, I think in a couple weeks here, the EM Road N0. It's a completely flat, a much more racy flat type of shoe, but still from the E Motion line, and we're really excited to see how that compares with a much more minimal midsole and outsole, and we'll definitely be getting those to you guys soon. So, in the meantime, definitely check out the EM Trail N1 from Pearl Izumi, as well as the rest of our videos at Gearist. Thanks so much, guys, for watching this episode of Gearist TV. Please like and favorite this video and also subscribe. While you're at it, please click on over to Gearist.com right here and take a look at all of our other reviews. If you're subscribed to this channel, be aware that you will get notifications that are going to say, hey, Gearist is doing a giveaway. So check that out. If you want to be in the know when we're going to be giving away our next promotion or what have you, you can definitely check it out that way. If you got any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. And again, like and favorite this video and spread the word to your friends. Thanks so much, guys, for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Hey there, everyone, and thanks so much for watching this episode of Gearist TV. Please click on that wonderful, beautiful blue subscribe button right there. Also, if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them in the questions and comments section below. And don't forget to visit Gearist.com. We'll talk to you next time.